What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Draft Live. Jake Shavink, as always, with you guys. We got a special guest here tonight. It's always that fun time of year when I can have Derek Bell on to talk some NFL Draft because we are pretty much exactly a week away from the festivities. I know, Derek, you've been grinding a lot, putting a lot of stuff on Steelers now as well. But go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, and yeah, we'll get this thing rolling.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you having me on. It's always a good
Yeah,
time of
man.
year when we can get together, talk about these prospects. I know you're one of the few people that's probably just as passionate, if not more passionate, about the draft than I am. But yeah, I just cover the Steelers and the NFL draft for Pittsburgh Sports Now, Steelers Now specifically. And then I have my own YouTube channel. It kind of does a lot of the same things that you do over here. So yeah, I'm excited to get in here, talk some NFL draft.
Yeah, man. I there's a lot that's been going around now, and it's that time of year where the big guys on NFL Network are dropping all those
Oh
like, oh,
yeah.
these are surprise first rounders, here we go, and it's kind of all of that stuff. I definitely want to pick your brain on like a little bit of the how the first round might play out because
hmm
for one, we have three quarterbacks that got invited to the draft. Okay, and we won't hang on this quarterback thing too long because we definitely want to get to our guys at some certain positions of interest that I think both of our teams are going to be heavily interested in. But three quarterbacks get invited, and none of them are Cam Ward. Obviously, Cam Ward may be doing his own thing, right? We know where he's probably going to go, but the fact that Sanders, Dart, and Milrow all getting invited, man, what does that tell you? Did you have any initial thoughts when you saw that? Does it feel like the Levis thing, or do you feel like we might see three or four go?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those things. I think it was Schultz or somebody was saying that they were trying to be more selective with the invites at first, and then that didn't really come to fruition. There still ended up being, I think, 18 or 19 guys. I saw Maxwell Harrison was a kind of a late acceptee as well. Um,
Yeah,
so, I'm not really sure what to read into it. I certainly think that the league has been higher on a guy like Jalen Milroe than maybe the draft media has been, for pretty obvious reasons, just from a tools perspective. But
for sure.
yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. We say this every year, with the exception of like 2022. Quarterbacks are always going to go higher than I think a lot of us that do this type of stuff think that they might. But yeah, it's going to be definitely something that shapes the first round, like when those guys come off the board. We don't have a lot of blue chip talent in this draft. It's more of like a starters draft.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of takes shape over like especially the first half, like with New Orleans, some of those teams that are kind of in the mix.
Yeah, it seems like there as I like go through it, I feel like there's like five teams, but obviously, two of those I think most notably can obviously make that move up, right? The Giants and the
Sure.
Browns if they both pass, right? I know there's a lot about the Giants, maybe they're looking to move down from three if it's Ward Hunter in the first two, and then maybe they're going to take the QB there.
Yeah.
The Saints, obviously, you don't. I know you don't love hearing it that Pittsburgh's involved in this for sure.
Again.
But
Yeah.
maybe a little bit better class than 2022 at the very
It is.
least, right? Where it's like,
It
oh, like the NFL like actually agreed with us in 22 that like, oh no, this we're not doing this in the
Well,
first,
most
right?
of the most of the
Well,
NFL.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, there might have been a single team, but
Yeah.
that's we don't have to hash out the past necessarily and
Yeah.
worry about that. But it does seem like there are more tools at least with this kind of incoming group of like, okay, with Sanders, there's still a level of precision that he plays with that I think is still like something you go, oh yeah, like this is something you can certainly build around. And it's just again with I think with Sanders and Dart especially, it's kind of like let's get that process,
Yeah.
let's get that rolling a little bit quicker with them. And I think with Ward, I don't know what your comp is for Ward. Boy, he bounces around in the pocket like Love does,
Yeah.
quite a bit. And sometimes that gets the accuracy
Yeah.
can
That's actually my
take
comp.
take
That's
a
my
hit.
comp
Is
for
it?
Ward. Is
I was
Jordan
gonna
Love.
say
Yeah.
that I think there was one other guy. Oh, I forget who did it. It might have been Derek Brown over at Fantasy Pros that I might have had that
hmm
one as well. I think right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and when he said that, I'm like, oh yeah, no, you go back and you see it, you're like,
It's the bouncy. kind of movement in the pocket, the confidence that he has in the arm, the kind of subtle drifting away. Like not a lot of guys can get away with that. You see that with Sanders tape actually, because like he doesn't have the arm velocity to kind of overcompensate like the depth he gets in the pocket, throwing off his back foot, things like that. But Love is like just so gifted in terms of like arm strength, just the power, the torque he can generate from his half. So yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting. With Sanders, I do agree. The accuracy is like he's sharpshooter precise. Like first, second level, the ball just like never hits the ground. And then I think with Dart, he's more of a wild card to me. He's somebody that I had a kind of a late second, early third round grade on, but it does seem like the NFL kind of likes him more. And I do think with Dart, like he's tough. He wants to push the ball down the field. I just think there's not a lot of like translatable pro reps that you see on film.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think Milroe, obviously, it's he loves pushing it down the field though. And you know what? At the Senior Bowl, it was like the throws that like actually look good from Milroe were like, oh yeah, no, there's like no space on this fade route this guy's running in the one-on-ones. Let me just drop that in the bucket real quick for him. Like everything else seems to be, kind of little bit of a struggle. But it does. Would you start any of these guys right away? Okay.
No, I would start. I would probably let Cam start depending on the environment. Sure. If Cam, assuming he's going to go to Tennessee, I would probably start him day one. It wouldn't be something that I was dead set on necessarily to where he had to, like maybe Caleb last year. Because for me, Cam is more like, in terms of like just raw grade, he grades out a little bit worse than like a guy like Jake Daniels, but he would have still been in that kind of like McCarthy type of tier. I would have actually had him graded over McCarthy last year. So I don't necessarily think that he's to the point where he can't start day one. I like anything, man. Quarterback is all about environment. Like what type of guys do you have for him to throw to, but more importantly, how does the offensive coordinator play to his skill set, minimize his weaknesses? What type of infrastructure do you have in the trenches to keep him upright? And I think with Ward, the big thing is just you see him do the things that he needs to do in terms of like just being like he has a really snappy throwing motion, but it's the lower body like footwork that kind of needs to be just more precise, more repeatable. There are times where he can throw with some really great anticipation because his footwork's on point. And then there are other times where he just gets kind of lazy just because I think he's always been one of those guys that, despite not being heavily touted maybe in the public or with the schools he's played at, but he's always been super, super confident. So I think that in the NFL, he's just going to have to understand that, like, the little stuff, the fundamentals definitely matter.
Yeah, and I think that at the very least, Tennessee's trying to – listen, Dan Moore signing, however you think of it, right? Like, hey, they're at least trying to do it, right? They draft Latham, they've drafted Skoronski, right? They're at least putting, I think, enough there where you go, okay, you go Cam, maybe you're adding, as crazy as this sounds, maybe to some Kyle Williams or somebody at the start of day two, and you kind of let that ride a little bit. And yeah, I don't think the environment's too bad there, but if he goes to New York, like somehow, some way, which I don't think it's going to happen.
That's where
I would also
be like,
him, hey, I would be like, let's let Russ and Jameis, give you a few weeks to get up to speed, and then let's start, doing what Jameis would probably do to Malik Neighbors, just feed that guy all year long, So yeah, that's going to obviously be the most intriguing. Everybody's going to be talking about that. However, there's obviously a lot of defensive tackles that I think we see that are going to be drafted, in the first 3 rounds or so. I continue, and I think probably the folks in the comments, the Packer fans, are like me, probably hoping Harmon falls to 23. Do you see that as a possibility? I was going to say, I don't know if he gets past like 11.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a real good chance that it's that San Francisco's like, no, we would like this guy, actually. Thank you very much. Like there's just seems like there's too many teams. Like even I think Miami should be considering it. I think Arizona, Cincinnati. There's just so many dang teams for Harmon to go to. Do you have Harmon above Nolan and Grant at this point?
Yeah, so Harmon is actually my DT4, but the reason why I think that so many teams are going to be interested in him is just because of how scheme versatile he is. I mean, this is a guy that's played all the way from like a shade, a one tech, to out to the 5. So he can do a little bit of everything, and his game is just so well-rounded that I think he gives you like whatever you need at that time, right? So
Yeah.
some of the things I like about Harmon, he reshaped his body last year, obviously, at Oregon. 49 pressures was 10 more than anyone else in the country in the regular season, according to Pro Football Focus. It's that he's just a guy, like, he can one gap, he can two gap, he can anchor, he can play through double teams, keep his linebackers clean at the second level. I just think that the things I love about him is just he can hold the point of attack. He's difficult to move off his spot. Just the awareness, like, he's somebody that, and this class doesn't have a lot of these guys, but he's somebody that always keeps his eyes in the backfield and locates the runner. He doesn't get tunnel vision as a run defender, and he plays with a great motor. And then, like, you see some of the things he did as a pass rusher, really effective on stunts. He's got the good first step quickness. The thing that kept me from ranking Harmon a little bit higher to where I think now that he's getting ranked among, like, big draft media stuff, I do think that there is some stiffness in his lower half, specifically with his hips. So you see it when he struggles to kind of like break down. I don't think the change of direction is all that great. That's one of the reasons why I've kind of described him as like disruptive instead of productive. Like, I think some people are just kind of hand waving that maybe as like, oh, the missed tackles, like you'll get regression to the mean. I just don't know with him it'll happen. But that doesn't mean he can't be like a great player. We'll see. I just do see some limitations in terms of like the bend, the lower body flexibility, the hip stiffness. But obviously a really good player. He's somebody that like all those teams you mentioned, they plug a guy like Derek Harmon, you're going to get a good pro. It's just, for me, it's just about the upside.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that, because when I did my video on him, I put disruptor in the title, because that's as you said, that's 100% what he does. And I know that Football Insights and some others have put out like the pass rush and run stop win rates out there, and you see Harmon's super low, and then you go into the film with that expectation. You're like, oh no, like we're really good here. Like, this is not a problem. He's doing things that Tyleek has done, dropping to a knee to hold the point of attack against doubles, and you're like, my goodness, like are we sure he can't defend the run type of thing? So that's what's nice about, you get to all that and you go, oh yeah, this guy is super good in really both phases. And I feel like he can turn the corner a little bit, but as you said, I think with quicker guards, it's going to be potentially a little bit more of a struggle to turn the corner. But again, he has the violent hands, and he's going to probably work his way into the backfield one way or another, right? He doesn't have like this is what I have to go to, and if I don't have it, then I don't have anything, which is good for him. But yeah, I think it's tough, because I think if you look at Nolan's like upside, you're kind of like, my goodness, this guy just moves like nobody else moves like him. It's genuinely crazy to watch him, and just down in Mobile as well. It's just like, gosh, he looks like a 255-pound edge running around. It's just it is truly crazy. But it kind of sounds like he's potentially going to be available in the 20s and maybe the 30s. So for maybe our two teams, it's kind of like, wow, he's going to be here, I guess, but kind of surprising.
Yeah, I struggle with that one, because I know there's some stuff out there. Like, I've even heard it from a couple different teams. Sure. Some teams have said, he's the guy who has the highest upside of any defensive player not named Travis Hunter in this class. I've heard that, and then I've also heard that he's a guy that just completely off one of the team's boards. And it goes back to the work ethic stuff. I haven't heard anything else. I've only spoken to like two different scouts, and I was in Indianapolis. Some of the things out there with his work ethic, is he going to take care of his body? I think it is a little bit of a red flag that he didn't even bother to test anything like that. But then he goes to the pro day, puts out a workout that like everybody says, oh, that was great. Like he looked great doing the drills and things like that. But Nolan did end up finishing as my DT1 in the class. I can't ignore, and it is a little bit of me grading to the flashes maybe, but
sure,
I can't ignore the skill set. There's 4 to 5 plays in pretty much every game that you can choose from where he just leaps off the tape. And I just think that he does things that no one else in this class can really do. The combination of burst, lateral agility, raw strength, when he times the snap count, which he's not always ready for the ball to be snapped. But he's super twitchy. He could detonate plays in the backfield. He makes plays away from his gap. That's something I like about interior defensive linemen, really just defensive linemen in general. Are you making plays away from your gap assignment? Like, it's good that you can hold the point of attack, and we love those guys, but can you make an impact when the ball's going away from you? Can you pursue things from the backside? Can you get into the backfield, make tackles for loss? Nolan does that. And then just the strength that he has, that was one of the differences I felt like between him and a guy like Mason Graham, who they both have that first step quickness to kind of penetrate. Like that's kind of their roles in their respective defense: penetrate, get up the field. I think that Graham is a more more technically refined pass rusher right now. He has more of a refined move set and counters. But with Nolan, I just saw a lot more power in his game, and I think that the big thing with him is if you can get the pad level to be more consistent. If you fix the pad level, his power will start to show even louder and on a more consistent basis.
Sure.
And so for me, like when I watch Nolan, there's other things like I would like to see him get his hands inside more on a consistent basis. But again, like the production, the film was like, it was good last year. And these things that I'm mentioning are more fixable. And I'm surprised it doesn't seem like that the NFL feels like that, because normally guys with traits and things like that, they look at these guys, the Shamar Stewarts, the Jalen Walkers, like the guys like this are like, oh, well, like we can just get this freak athlete in here and plot, that's how coaches think. So it is surprising to me, and it does give me a little bit of pause that like maybe just the personality, the work ethic, maybe there's even more that we haven't heard that's just off with him, and that's why maybe the NFL is not high. But I'm telling you, man, don't let this dude go to Philly. Don't let this dude go to Philly.
That's the real problem that we might have on our hands here, is just like, there's Walter Nolan here. He's tumbling down the board. Oh, he's not going to get picked in the first round. Oh, of course, Philly does that. Sure.
Don't let him get to Philly.
There. Oh gosh, yeah, we really don't need that, but I feel like we are trending that. Well, Kansas City, you never know, might just say, yeah, we can't. We'll pair him up with Chris Jones. Like that could be the other problem that we could have as well. And like maybe Chris Jones is the guy to like mentor him, get the head on straight. Like that feels like a really nice spot, honestly. If the Giants were obviously interested at the top of round 2, you got a guy like Lawrence in there that might be able to help him out too. Like it feels like, hopefully with as you said, all the talent. Like when I first got to him in January and stuff and was looking through all that, I'm like, man. And I saw one other person do this, like put him in the top 5 of their early rankings. I'm like, yeah, I kind of see that. Like I don't. We're searching for some blue chippers, and like he has the potential to be one for sure. So I big fan of his for sure. But yeah, it's just maybe just again the consistency stuff, and I feel like when, as you said, the pad level is low because he's, again, obviously Harmon being a taller player isn't going to have that same pad level. So if he can just stick to that, like it is that explosiveness with that pad level will be a problem if it's consistent for sure. Are there any defensive tackles, like obviously, you can go day 2, day 3, wherever you want to go with like guys that you're like, I really like this player, would like him, in Pittsburgh or just, on a team that could really, utilize his strengths and make him play at a high level?
Yeah, I mean, I'm finishing up my top 100 big board. I'm like aiming to try to get that out Monday or Tuesday of next week. We'll see. But I currently, right now, I have over a dozen defensive tackles in my top 100. Like this class is pretty absurd. I would say that one of my favorite players in the class who's not gotten nearly enough buzz, I think he should go on day 2. It seems like he might go on day 3. Is Indiana CJ West. I love CJ West, man.
Yes.
He's a guy who can hold the point of attack. But he can also like shoot gaps into the backfield. I think he's got pretty good flexibility for a bigger guy, explosive, super, super strong. I tweeted out some clips earlier today because I was going back and watching him just to finalize his grade. It's like you're trying to block a grizzly bear. Like he just stands his ground and like throws guys around. You'll routinely see him like torque guys out of gaps. But I'm a big fan of CJ West. I would be comfortable taking him in the 3rd round. That's kind of like the grade that I have on him. But he's an experienced guy. He's played over 2,000 career snaps. Like, size, explosiveness, lateral quickness. He does have like a refined toolkit as a pass rusher. And I just think like he's a guy who's played a lot of ball. He went to Indiana this past year and pretty much transformed their defense. They look completely different than they did the year before. So CJ West, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, with all the nose tackles, you kind of more expect like, oh, they're going to be really plotty in their movement skills and stuff like that. And obviously it's all relative for sure. But yeah, it does seem like he has maybe a little bit more juice than he's been advertised to have as far as other like nose tackles go. When you kind of look at, the Jordan Phillipses and some other guys like that, like you kind of go, oh yeah, no, he certainly jumps out a bit more than maybe I was expecting. Like, oh yeah, he's going to be on these guys' level or not. But yeah, I do like him. The other one that, like, when you talk about Nolan and the consistency, like Joshua Farmer, man, just keep building consistency, my guy. We can,
Yeah, that's another
we can
tough one.
really build something here if we can just down to down. Because I mean, just with that arm length, like just the amount of control he could potentially play with, if you
Yeah.
refine everything, is dangerous stuff. And he's rushing from the 5 tech. He's doing stuff like he could move around as well and be super effective. It's just like he is just not, in my opinion, not at the level of consistency of a Darius Alexander. The way you can be disruptive, but it feels like he should be able to get there no problem if you just have the right coaching. Right? It feels like he can reach that.
I can tell you right now, if the Steelers don't take a defensive tackle in the first round, I personally think that they're going to circle back on Josh Farmer in round 3. They don't have the second round pick, but if he's there in round 3 and they haven't taken a tackle yet, I would expect him to be the pick. He had a pre-draft visit with them. They met with him, I believe, at the combine as well. You mentioned like some of the same things with Farmer, like the burst, slices into gaps. He's got that like a really sturdy build. You look at the arm length. That's something that Steelers care about. I think the Packers probably care about that as well. But you just look at the way the potential with him. I thought the film when I got to him, because I was reading some of the measurables and just different things like that. I'm like, man, this is like a Steelers 3 tech right here. When I got to the film, it's pretty disappointing. I thought it was just like you said, it's really sporadic. It's really inconsistent. And like you just don't know what you're gonna get on a play-to-play basis. But there are, kind of similar to some of these other guys we've already hit on, but there are like 2 or 3 reps every game where you're like, whoa, like at least as a rusher where he's like throwing guys to the side in like quick, easy wins, those type of things that typically translates to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. And then, that's what's really nice about this is you're going to be like, oh yeah, you need a 3 tech. You want a guy to be more flexible along your defensive line, right? Like your Farmers, your Alexanders, maybe even your Nolans. Obviously, we talked about Harmon. Like there's going to be kind of like, oh yeah, you want a versatile guy, you want true 3 tech, you want true nose, you want a nose tackle who can do a little bit more than that. Like there's so much flavor in this class of like how you can address defensive tackle, and that's going to be the interesting part, right? Is like, okay, is everybody just going to hammer defensive tackle early? Or are you going to get guys like your Farmers, like your Wests in the 3rd round where it's like, oh, maybe a guy like West shouldn't be here. We'll take advantage. Like it's going to be interesting to see how that's kind of addressed, because as we've kind of talked, it's a deep group, and like, there's always differing opinions on that. Like, let's grab a good one now versus waiting. So
I think that and the running back groups are the 2 kind of ones that make me think about that type of thing, where it's like, do you want to grab your guy at the top of the draft? Do you want to wait on some of these guys because here's the deal, like those 2 are the positions in this class, in my opinion, this is not a great draft for my money overall. But I do think that those 2 positions specifically, there will be running backs and defensive tackles that come off the board early day 3 in the first like probably 20 picks, because you're going to see all like we do every year. You'll see teams trying to trade up and get some of these guys. I think there's going to be starters to be had in the 4th round at both of those positions. And, you talk about value and getting good return on your investment. That's how you get it.
Yeah, definitely. I know we're a little short on time. Do you have, one of the 2 positions, corner or receiver, you'd like to
we could talk about receiver before I get out of here. I know that's kind of your specialty, but
yeah, man, let's do it. Yeah, because I always like hearing opinions from everybody at receiver, because like that's as you said, like I'm doing as many breakdowns of the receivers as possible on YouTube before the draft comes around. So
right.
Who's one of your favorites? And to those asking questions, I know Derek's got to hop off pretty soon. I can definitely answer them and hang on for another 5 if you guys want to hang out. So yeah. Be my guest. Who you love at receiver in this class?
Man, there's a lot to like at the receiver position, at least at the top. I don't necessarily think it's a great group overall, but there are some guys in the 1st round that I'm particularly bullish on. I love, like in January when I got to Matthew Golden's film, I did a film room on my channel for him, and like I think the last thing that I said in that film room was I just every time I watch his film, I wonder if he's going to end up being the best guy out of this class. And then like he
Yeah.
runs the crazy 40 at the combine. Now we're talking about taking him in the top 10,
Right.
which is it's kind of funny because I don't necessarily think that that's even really the selling point to his game. Like he could definitely get vertical, but it's not like he's a speedster. He's more of like a route running technician, if you will. There's a lot to like with Golden. I just think the in-out quicks. He plays bigger than his size. He can high point the ball at the apex, the tracking ability, everything like that. He just really came on last year, especially down the stretch. Some of his some of his best games were in the biggest moments. I think that was something that was notable with me. I just think, to me, like one of my one-liner to kind of finish his scouting report, and the reason why I had him as my number 2 overall receiver behind Travis Hunter was because I just think he's rapidly ascending, and I think that he just might be one of these guys that kind of breaks out. I don't even want to say like late, because I mean he is an underclassman. We don't have a lot of those in this class,
For sure.
but I just think with Golden, man, the in-out quicks, the route running stuff is going to translate to the next level. And I just think that he has a lot of what you want in the NFL. Separation is king, and he can get it for you. So I like Golden as a chain mover. I wouldn't necessarily think that he's kind of the talent to take maybe in the top 10 or even the first half of the first round necessarily. But this is the class that we're dealing with, right? So there's not a lot of blue chip talent, not a lot of like true blood first rounders. So but yeah, Golden's a really good player. I think he's going to be a good pro.
Rapid fire before I'll have some data on Golden for sure, but Golden or Pearsall?
Golden for
me.
me.
I know you were a Pearsall guy last year, right? Over Ladd, I think. Which again, they were kind of decently similar, right?
Yeah, so I think I want to say I think I actually did. I had Ladd at 7. I had Pearsall at 8 last year in my wide receiver rankings.
Oh, okay. So
the Pearsall thing was one of those, and it happens every year. And I'm not even saying it because I don't even think, for me personally, I do the Steelers stuff like in the fall. So like the draft kind of has to take a little bit of a back seat. I've got kind of one eye over there, but both of my eyes on the Steelers. So it's not often that like I'm like early on those guys. That's not something I'm like even capable of doing. But it is kind of the same thing where it's like Pearsall and Golden, where I was kind of early and was like, hey, like people are talking about this dude second, third round. I don't necessarily, well, Pearsall was more day 3. It's like, man, like, I don't think that that's necessarily accurate. And then he ends up going like higher than I expected. But 32. I was pleasant. I'm excited to see Ricky in Kyle's offense once he gets healthy and kind of gets up to steam. I thought late in the season last year, he did show some good things. I still think like it's kind of crazy to me that he went in the first round, but
it is, a little bit for sure.
I see your chat's throwing shade at Quinn Ewers, which is always that you get bonus points in my book for that.
Listen, AD Mitchell, Worthy,
Golden,
this was
Bonds,
my guy. How many guys, man? How many guys
are we
gonna let Ewers ruin out here? Just saying, like seriously.
Yeah, we got to get my
Bonds
guy AD
to himself.
Yeah, we got to get my guy AD a quarterback, man. In Indy.
Please, I can't believe we might be thinking Daniel Jones might help elevate AD, but that might be where we're at. Yeah, but like like you said, I feel like since he ran the 40, people are like, oh, Golden's a speedy receiver, and it's like, okay, we don't.
Yeah,
that's all we're talking about now. Is like now people are like, well, he's a bust because he ran fast, and it's like, okay, but like I don't think he plays 4.29. Like it
and that's not even like you said. That's not even the point of the scouting report. Like if you actually watch him on film, like there is a lot of good things that he does. One of the subtle things that I think Golden really does that I think is an underrated thing with wide receivers. Watch how he comes off the ball. Like it is full speed ahead every single time. Like, and that's the reason why defensive backs like always look like they're in a tizzy or a frenetic panic when he's coming off and they're in off coverage. He bursts off the ball. He can clear things out for people underneath. That's going to be the value of his speed. Like he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to take the top off. He'll get some explosive plays for you. But because of like his willingness to burst off the ball, even when he's not the designated target, he's the alert. It's going to open things up. So,
yeah, he sure did, Adam. He sure did. Hey, he did it to himself.
If y'all want something funny, y'all can go follow my handle. If the Steelers take Quinn Ewers at any point in the draft, especially before like round 5, I will burn that app down.
Oh man, it's so true. But yeah, I mean, like and that's the other thing with the receiver position that I feel like people don't maybe talk about as much is the body language. And like, especially in your stem, especially in the first like 5-7 steps, where you get guys coming, upright, DBs are gonna be like, oh, so you're actually not running vertically. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate. But again, I know if everybody when you mention something bad about this guy, if everybody's like, oh, you're overthinking him. Like, stop with the prospect fatigue. It's like, nah, man. When you watch Tet play, watch the body language. And I put it in my video too of back-to-back plays, especially against Colorado, where he's rising up out of that that body language of shoulders down, and he's breaking, and then you watch him the very next play run a fade route from the slot, and wow, lo and behold, his shoulders are down because he knows he's running all the way, and it's like that has to be cleaned up.
Yeah,
DBs started to figure that out, and NFL DBs and NFL defensive coordinators are going to be like, hey, look at this guy. He'll tell you what he's doing on every play. So yeah, I do really appreciate that with Golden and guys like Noel, especially that like are just really good with that body.
Noel's another one that does
like,
that. Yeah,
they're just like, no, everything's vertical until it isn't, and that's something I'm trying to really pay attention to more this cycle with these guys of like, all right, who's pulling up out of the stance a little early.
Yeah. Last thing before I gotta skate out of here, but.
Sure.
With Tet, I do agree with what you're saying. The thing with Tet that actually kind of worries me a little bit is I want to see him be more physical at the line of scrimmage against press.
For sure.
And in terms of, because he is longer, he has a bigger frame. So he's somebody that needs to understand like how to use his hands a little bit better. Like he kind of plays at the line of scrimmage like he's a finesse guy, like he's Golden size. And it's like, man, you're 6'4", over 200 pounds. Like you can bully these guys and don't. I think in college there was a little bit of arrogance, and I'm not saying that in a I am saying in a negative way, but not in a disrespectful way. There's a little bit of arrogance to his game where he was kind of content at times to allow guys to just hang on his body at the line. And at the NFL level, that's just not going to work. Like for one, your feet are better than your hands at corner, and pretty much every NFL DB that's going to be living in press understands that. So they're going to be able to mirror his movements. If he just wants to take his sweet time at the line of scrimmage, they're just going to be patient, keep the shoulders square. Like he's got to understand how to take the fight to receivers. I do like Ted. He was my wide receiver 3. I kind of actually have like him and Gold. Like he's just like a slight tick below Golden. I do see a lot of upside. I just, for the differentiator there was I just feel like Golden was a better separator, and I thought that Ted didn't use his physicality, even though he is bigger, he has more size. I didn't think he always used it to his advantage the way he should. But still both a good player for sure.
Yeah, I do feel like the smaller guys sometimes where you go, oh, don't try to like bully guys. Don't you don't need to come up with 2 hands pushing. Like use your footwork. You're fast enough. But yeah, with the bigger guys, it's kind of like no. Like you can use both. Like you don't have to always, use the footwork and just not and just let guys, as you said, hang on to you the entire way. Like swipe, OPI, do whatever. They'll let you do it. Like they don't.
For sure.
The refs aren't throwing flags for OPI very often. Like if you got to do it, do it. So yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting with Tet for sure. Wherever he lands, of like, okay, Dallas, they'll be able to kind of do the flip-flop thing with CD, and it'll be kind of a good thing for him. But yeah, that's the one thing I'm worried about with Ted is like, hey, if you're going to throw him out to be the X to the Wolves like immediately without like helping him out a little bit more, you could have kind of a tougher situation on your hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, Derek, thanks for dropping by for this. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you could make it. Glad we could chop it up before the draft. You're obviously welcome back anytime. I think I've got a lot planned for next week as well. So if you're ever interested in post round or anything like that next week, would love to do that, because I know Smitty's going to be interested in that because he talked to me about that as well. So that'd be a lot of fun to recap. But appreciate it. If you want to quickly plug once more all that you got going on before you hop out.
Yeah, like I said, Twitter. And YouTube at Steelers_DB. I do a lot of Steelers NFL draft content, and all my written works at SteelersNow.com. It was definitely cool chatting with you, man. Wish we had even more time. But I definitely am excited about the draft. I'm sure we'll be in touch over the next 7-10 days. It's gonna be a wild ride. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Again, appreciate you so much. Take care.
Later, man.
Later. Yeah. So that was awesome. Make sure you follow him. I know he obviously does a lot of Steelers stuff for the Packer fans in here, of course, but he does do some prospect stuff as well. So you should jump over there and definitely check that out on his channel. It is the same handle as his Twitter and all of that. So we're gonna hit some questions, and then we're gonna pop out of here because we got another thing going on the Weekly Cheddar channel very, very shortly, and we're probably gonna start that earlier if we can. Want to work through a few of these comments because I know these were some of these at the start. I know, Drew, this was probably for Derek. I imagine, Drew, if the Steelers are going with Milroe and Rudolph, that Rudolph would initially start. Prince Capsaicin asking if you would start Shuck right away. Yeah, I mean, Shuck's interesting. You know, he's an older guy. He's pushing those Brandon Weeden vibes out there. Like, I think him too. He has his moments again where you know, pressure and stuff gets to him a little bit, and there's a little bit of panic out there. So I don't think I would either. Shuck to me feels like the quality backup guy that I think you can add to your roster of like, yeah, this is a guy we can ask to step in. I'm just not sure at this point, like you go, oh yeah, this is a guy that's going to continue to develop even more where he becomes that quality starter. Mark Collins says to trade on a few spots. 1 of 3 guys, Harmon, Emin, Warrior, Ibuka. It's the only guys I'm taking in the first. I imagine that's for Pittsburgh. Which, yeah, I mean, those 3 are excellent. Ayers Joy saying Golden's the only receiver I see we're taking the first, unless we being Green Bay trade down to 30, Higgins or Harris. Still feels a bit rich. Yeah, I think so. There's Joy asking if anybody has opinion on JT Tui Maloau. Good second round or more of a third round. I think he's right in that range. I know that it's not fun to talk about the good run defenders in the class, right? With JT especially, but like when he's got the pad level working and he can get up to speed 3 to 4 steps, he can jolt offensive linemen back, and so he has some ability as a pass rusher, which I think is well documented on film, and he obviously can make the splash plays, right? The passes, that he can, break up in air, right? He's got good timing with that. He can, create some interceptions when needed. Like he makes those splash plays as well, turning the ball over. But again, as we move, I think more towards this, we're running the football, we're in play action. I think pistol might make a return as well if some of the wide zone, outside zone stuff sticks around. So I do think like having guys who can defend the run is going to be paramount. These 240-pound edge rushers, man, if you can't defend the run, if you're not Will Anderson at that size, it's going to be tough sledding out there for you because they will run at you time and time again. So JT, I feel like, everybody wants to talk about Sawyer, but I feel like JT's pretty decent. I mean, I would definitely pick him on day 2. Drew D asking, you guys think you guys who are young will get a big boost in a class that's pretty old? It just depends, right? It's going to depend, right? QBs, maybe you want the young guy, right? In this class where obviously you've got the older guys. Ward's 23, I think Dart's 22, so it's not that old. But obviously you got Shuck, where you might take the younger guys, so you have them developed and ready in a Milroe or a Shedeur Sanders, where Ward and these guys probably going to play earlier, right? So there will be some guys that I think get that boost, right? Golden's probably going to get that boost a little bit, for sure. Probably some of the running backs are going to get that boost, maybe. But again, the running back, it's more of a first contract and maybe a half of a second contract type of thing. So there's probably not too much there. So I don't know if there's going to be much of a big boost, especially if you're a team that's, looking for pieces right now, especially, right? Defensive tackle, if you're looking for a piece right now, CJ West a little bit older, Darius Alexander obviously a lot older, right? He'll be 25 in the fall, but you get that guy who can come contribute right away, and that's potentially helpful, right? When you look at what we call kind of a starter draft. So yeah, let's let me scroll back through the comments, make sure I didn't miss anything. I know Chris, Drew, Ayers Joy, among the folks, Adam Huddle, Joseph S., who were in here tonight. Want to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. But as I said, for those interested, Weekly Cheddar on YouTube. If you already aren't subscribed there, go subscribe there now. Live show is going to probably kick off, I would guess, in about 10, 15 minutes from now. I'm going to answer a few more questions, and then we'll pop out of here. But there will be some more live stuff on here, probably on Sunday, and then next week as well, probably on NFL Draft Eve for sure. We might do a big AMA there, which would be a lot of fun as well. We can go as far into day 2, day 3 as you like to go. Let me see here. Getting some. I know people talking like Joseph about Goody trading back and stuff like that. Adam Huddle saying the Steelers like Kenneth Grant. I mean, that would certainly help if you're moving Keanu Benton over to 3-tech for sure. Let's see. I'm scrolling down. A lot of people talking about Will Howard. He does a lot of the right stuff. There's no question about that. Drew saying he can't unsee Tet's flashy catches. That's for sure. For sure. Yeah, Alfred Collins, Mark. That's a good shout. I do like Alfred Collins quite a bit there. Interior O line. That's a good shout, Adam. Especially if you think a lot of tackles are interior offensive linemen. I think that makes a lot of sense. Tet can make OBGA catches, run the card up. Imagine if Tet goes with Neighbors. Tet gonna have to be wide receiver 2. We're talking about Besh, for sure. So, yeah, Emenwari could be a Steelers guy. The Steelers have definitely shown interest in the safety position. That's for sure. So yeah, I think Kevin Winston, Emenwari, Starks. That's going to be interesting to see how those three, and Watts as well, a fourth guy, of like how those safeties are lined up, right? Because I think most people would tell you like, hey, Starks is really good, like really well-rounded, fundamentally sound, right? His in-game athleticism is better than the testing, which I completely agree with. You have the physical freak that is Nick Emenwari, right? Like for sure. And then Kevin Winston, who's coming off injury, but again, another guy who, boy, he plays with his hair on fire at times. Another guy who's fundamentally sound, probably can move him all over the field to make plays. Like that's going to be fascinating to see where those guys end up. And then Xavier Watts as well, because I feel like every mock draft I see has Xavier Watts going to a different team in the second round. So that's going to be really exciting as well. Drew D asking if you're worried Collins was behind Murphy, and Murphy hasn't done much in the NFL so far. No, because I think with Collins, you know what he is, right? You know he's a good run defender, and Texas why wouldn't you, right? When you have 5-6 defensive linemen, why not keep the guys fresh, keep rotating in and out? So, like, I know obviously you go behind, Byron Murphy on the depth chart, but boy, Murphy, Sweat, Broughton, Collins, they had more guys even. I think there were one guy probably that was drafted last year as well. They had so many guys that were rotating in. The snap counts were pretty low, and that's something we talked about with Murphy of like, wow, the snap counts are low. It's like, yeah, Texas is rotating all of these guys. But again, Collins is going to be that really, really strong run defending type that is going to control, 1 to 2 players on every snap, where it's going to free up a lot of guys at the second level. And obviously safeties rotating into the run fit that'll be able to make plays because of how well he anchors and holds strong at the point of attack. So I'm not too worried about that with Collins, because I think what his role is going to be. Ayers are talking about Shuck as a guy potentially later, playing later in the season and see what you got. I think that's going to be the case with a lot of these guys, in my opinion. Other than, as we kind of talked about at the top, is Cam Ward, who, Tennessee's put the structure in to have him play, right? I don't think they're going to stop themselves with like, oh, Will Levis, we'll play him over Ward. It's like, yeah, probably not. So I do think that is, a possibility with a lot of these guys. So going to pop out of here after about 43 minutes. We'll probably, again, start in like 10 to 15 pretty quickly. So make sure you're hopping over there for some weekly cheddar. That's going to be a lot of fun. We got Brian Maffey and Mike Kawano coming in. We'll probably do a mock draft. We'll probably answer a bunch of questions. Imagine if Green Bay drafted Tyreek and Collins. My goodness. Yeah, that'd be wild. That would be very, very wild. So, yeah, see y'all there. Obviously, if you're not a Packer fan and you've been listening, that's awesome, because there's just a lot more than that on this channel now. But obviously, the core group want to keep, supporting you guys because of the support you gave me with more videos regarding Green Bay. So, as I said, there's going to be probably, I would imagine, 10 to 12 more prospect film rooms for you guys to watch before the draft gets underway, and then there's going to be a lot more after. Don't want to, rule out the guys who have come over from other teams and have found my videos from that, because much appreciated for that. So, if you got a team and you're watching this afterwards and it's not Green Bay, it's not Pittsburgh or whoever, make sure you drop it in the comments so I know, like, hey, because again, the Eagles fan base, gosh, the support on the Cooper DeJean video was insane. So, if you guys want something, right, like, hey, our first round pick, you got to break him down, like, we will do that here, promise. So we're getting into the point where it's going to be a lot going on here, a lot going on, and we're not going to stop once the draft concludes. So thank you guys again so much for being here. And again, for the Packers fans, see you at Weekly Cheddar If you need that link, it is a featured channel here if you go to my homepage. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care, everybody.